Hello everybody. I'm going to be talking about Constructivism, which is detailed in Chapter 4 of our text about learning theories. So let's get started. So Constructivism is how people construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through experiencing things and reflecting on those experiences. Did you know that Constructivism is not a specific pedagogy? It's not considered an official learning theory. It sometimes is confused with Seymour Pappert's theory of constructionism. Constructionism builds on Piaget's constructivist theory of knowledge. According to Ackerman, Piaget's constructivism offers a window into what children are interested in and able to achieve at different stages of their development. The theory describes how children's ways of doing and thinking evolve over time and under which circumstance children are more likely to let go of or hold on to their currently held views. Piaget suggests that children have very good reasons not to abandon their worldviews just because someone else, even an expert, tells them they're wrong. Pappert's constructionism, however, focuses more on the art of learning or learning to learn, and on the significance of making things in learning. Pappert is interested in how learners engage in a conversation with their own artifacts or with others' artifacts, and how these conversations boost self-directed learning and ultimately facilitate the construction of new knowledge. He stresses the importance of tools, media, and context in human development. Integrating both perspectives illuminates the processes by which individuals come to make sense of their experience, gradually optimizing their interactions with the world. So, constructivism is considered a theory of knowledge, while constructionism is considered a theory of learning. So what is constructivism? Well, it's a theory of knowledge which was formally attributed to Jean Piaget, but was also influenced by many others such as Lev Vygotsky, John Dewey, and Maria Montessori. Constructivist theory places value on children's play and exploration as a necessary part of cognitive development. There are lots of terms that people use when talking about constructivism. Some people call it experiential learning, active learning, learning by doing, or discovery learning. So the basis behind the constructivist theory of knowledge are the terms assimilation and accommodation. So Piaget suggested that through processes of accommodation and assimilation, individuals construct new knowledge from their experiences. When individuals assimilate, they incorporate the new experience into an already existing framework without changing the framework. This may occur when individuals' experiences are aligned with their internal representations of the world, but it may also occur as a failure to change a faulty understanding. For example, they may not notice events, or they may misunderstand input from others, or even decide that an event is a fluke and unimportant information. In contrast, when individual experiences contradict the internal representations, they may change their perception of the experience to fit their internal representation. Accommodation is the process of reframing the mental representation of the external world to fit a new experience. Accommodation can be understood as the mechanism by which failure leads to learning. When we act on the expectation that the world operates in one way and it violates our expectation, we often fail. But if we accommodate this new experience and reframe our model of the way the world works, we can learn from the experience of our failure or from the failure of others. Here are two quotes by George Hine to think about. First, he said, "We have to focus on the learner in thinking about learning and not on the subject or lesson to be taught." And secondly, there is no knowledge independent of the meaning attributed to experience or constructed by the learner or community of learners. So I think we've come a long way in education regarding learner analysis, and I think most educators would agree that it is important to understand the learner in order to fully reach the student or the learner. However, the second quote is a bit more controversial. Hine said, "If we accept constructivist theory, we have to recognize that there is no such thing as knowledge out there independent of the knower, but only knowledge we construct for ourselves as we learn. Learning is not understanding the true nature of things, but rather a personal and social construction of meaning. Most of us constantly vacillate between faith that our learners will indeed construct meaning which we find acceptable, and our need to construct meaning for them. That is, to structure situations that are not free for learners to carry out their own mental actions, but learning situations which channel them into our ideas about the meaning of the experience. It is this tension between our desire as teachers to teach the truth and to present the world as it really is, and our desire to let learners construct their own world, which requires us to think seriously about our pedagogy. Some basic principles of constructivism. Number 1 is that learning is an active process in which the learner uses sensory input and constructs meaning out of it. So learning is not the passive acceptance of knowledge, but learning involves the learner engaging in the world. Number 2, people learn to learn as they learn. So learning consists of both constructing meaning and constructing systems of meaning. Number 3, the crucial action of constructing meaning is mental, so it happens in the mind. So while physical actions are necessary in constructivism, that learning by doing piece, it's not just sufficient. We also have to provide activities which engage the mind as well as the physical. Number 4, learning involves language. The language we use influences learning, and researchers have noted that people talk to themselves as they learn. Number 5, learning is a social activity. Our learning is intimately associated with our connection with other human beings, our teachers, peers, family, as well as acquaintances. Number 6, learning is contextual. We do not learn isolated facts and theories. We learn in relationship to what else we know. Number 7, one needs knowledge to learn. It is not possible to assimilate new knowledge without having some structure developed from previous knowledge to build on. So the more we know, the more we can learn, building on prior knowledge. Number 8, it takes time to learn. Learning is not instantaneous. For significant learning, we need to revisit ideas, ponder them, try them out, and use them. And number 9, motivation is a key component in learning. It is not just helpful, it's actually necessary. Of course, with any theory comes criticism. So some of the criticism of the constructivist theory is that it's too time-consuming, expensive, inefficient. It's a mix of other theories without one clear theory. It's too subjective. That learners must have a higher level of self-management or maturity for success. It has unpredictable outcomes. It's difficult to develop authentic tasks, and encourages diversity of thought where conformity is required. On that piece, I was doing some research as far as math is concerned with the constructivist theory, because I prefer that in my personal classroom. But a lot of mathematicians don't like constructivism because they feel like it gets away from drill and practice, which is necessary in math. It gets away from algorithms and teaching those basic algorithms to students that they need to learn. So constructivism and e-learning. This is a quote from Al-Mala. He said, the principles of constructivism meet the theoretical demands of quality e-learning environment. In a synchronous or asynchronous e-learning course, students use their prior knowledge and the knowledge of their peers and instructor to enrich the class discourse and negotiation process, and therefore find the appropriate solutions to the problem on hand. This learning process is founded, acknowledged, and supported by the principles of social constructivism. So this is a very good quote that obviously he feels that constructivist theory works well for e-learning. In my personal experience through this program, I've actually found it kind of difficult in some ways to include a constructivist theory within an asynchronous model. So I'm still working on figuring that out. He did have a couple of suggestions, things we've talked about before in class, that some good constructivist e-learning activities are discussion forums and problem-based learning. And here are the references that I used for this presentation. I hope you enjoyed.